Obviously, you had the greatest dynasty in the history of sports up there in New England. They have moved on from Coach Mayo after 1 year in a surprise announcement yesterday to, I think, a lot of football fans. How do you feel about only getting 1 year to build your culture, and how do you feel about that type of situation up there in New England, how it's unfolding right now? And you can obviously go to press conference, Bill, if you need to at this moment.
Yeah. Well, Pat, I wasn't trying to exclude any organizations. I was just trying to not take 14 minutes.
No, all good.
But absolutely. No, Green Bay is a good example of that. They have their way of doing things, and I think they've done a great job in bringing young players into their organization for years and years and years. They've done a great job with their young players. They keep their best veterans, when they sign them to their second and third contracts. But they turn their roster over, and they always have a young team. They've always had a competitive team, and they've always been one step ahead in the quarterbacks from, Favre to Rodgers to Love, that. So absolutely, that's another organization that they have a different way of doing things, but they've been consistent and they've been very successful over time. The Patriots situation, I mean, honestly, I don't have too much of a comment on that. Robert Kraft, Jonathan Kraft, Robin Glazier, they're the decision makers there, who exactly does what and so forth. Mayo was handpicked by Robert, but in the end, the decision making is something that they'd have to comment on and identify. But, they're the ones that are really, making the calls there. And so it's they're the ones that should comment on that. I really don't know from the outside looking in. They haven't called me and asked, so I don't know.
We thought maybe that would happen after the way this year has gone. There might be a chance that they go, wow, maybe winning for a long time isn't as easy as one guy who's coaching in college now made it look for a while. Hopefully there's a chance for that conversation. You guys fire your coach after 1 year? Holy shit, buddy. I mean, what are we too.
I mean, look, it was a tough year. And I think the hate towards Jerod Mayo, especially yesterday, was a little bit unwarranted. I don't think anybody went into this year as a Patriots fan like, hey, we're going to win 10 games and go to the playoffs, and we're going to be competing for a Super Bowl. The ceiling was probably 7 wins. So for the fact that they went 3-14, 4-13, whatever the hell they ended up, because yesterday was a shit show, doesn't really matter in the end. They go from the number 1 pick to the number 4 pick. Also, doesn't really matter because we're not a QB needy team. You want more picks. But Jerod Mayo getting fired, a little bit of a surprise. I think there were rumblings early in the season, maybe halfway through, that like, hey, things aren't going well, things aren't getting better. Obviously, they start the year off beating the Bengals week 1, which kept the Bengals out of the playoffs and the Patriots out of the number 1 pick. So looking back, massive game in the moment. Also a massive game because it's like, holy shit, Mayo's coming in, wins his first game as a head coach. This is awesome. Maybe things will be better than expected. But I think the biggest thing was the defense got worse for Jerod Mayo, and he came in as a defensive guy. So you would assume that would be the one thing that gets better, especially with all the players they ended up signing during free agency, actually keeping during free agency on that defense. So that getting worse was a massive deal. And then I think Schefter talked about it. The last 30 days is where like doubt really started to creep in. And I think we had him on either last week or 2 weeks ago, and he never really had a feeling that Mayo was definitely out. And then yesterday on Sunday Countdown, he talked about how he was leaning towards out with Mayo. So it is a bummer. I mean, 1 year is crazy. I think last year Frank Reich was the only one-and-done guy for the Panthers. I think the year before was Lovie Smith, where he won the last game just like Jerod Mayo against the Colts. And then they fired him immediately after. But it stinks because Jerod Mayo was a player everyone loved in New England, and the head coaching, stint, 1 year thing didn't go well. He talked kind of like a fool sometimes in the media where he would say one thing on a Monday and then Tuesday he would walk it back. And that was kind of from the beginning where he said in free agency they were going to burn a whole bunch of money. And then the next day he said, look, we're not just going to spend willy-nilly. So it was one of those things where he was a rookie head coach trying to figure things out, and it went the way it went. And I think this year in particular, and maybe not last year or even the year before that, if this season happens, that, he does come back for his second year. But then when you look at the coaches who are available in this, coaching cycle, Mike Vrabel, Ben Johnson.
Mike Vrabel.
I think you can
Mike
throw
Vrabel.
Mike Vrabel.
Has to be.
Vrabel. I already ordered a jersey with the number 50 that says head coach on the back, so you know where I lie in this kind of hiring cycle. But seriously, I think because Vrabel's available, specifically Vrabel, it would be foolish not to kind of move on when you see where things are going. And over the weekend, it was reported that, and this is a real thing, Vrabel changed his Twitter X profile photo from one thing to him doing a nice little celebration with Teddy Bruschi when he was playing for the New England Patriots. And Jerod Mayo is one of those guys too who did understand the Patriots culture, played there, all of that. But I think Mike Vrabel more so understands what it was like playing for the Patriots when they were bad and then turning it around and making them great. He was on the team in 2000 when they were not good. I think they went 5-11 in Bill's first year, and then he was part of that turnaround where in 2001 they went and won the Super Bowl. So Mike Vrabel, all eyes are pointing to him. There was a tweet from Mike Giardi where he actually mentions like, hey, I've talked to multiple NFL executives around the league. Everyone's basically already pinning Vrabel to the New England Patriots. And then we also have the video from last year where Mike Vrabel was kind of inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame. And that was a problem with the Titans allegedly last year when this happened because it was during the Titans bye week. But Foxy, if you want to run that from last year.
But I also want you not to take this organization for granted. I've been a lot of places.
Right.
This is a special place with great leadership, great fans, great direction, great coaching. Enjoy it. It's not like this everywhere. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I mean, I know, Pat. Before the show, there was some guy over there who was a Saints or Jets fan, and he was saying, "Hey, bring in Mike Vrabel." If you're a fan of a team that's not the Patriots, newsflash, you're not getting Mike Vrabel because Mike Vrabel's going, I think, to New England.
Okay, so I like that he's interviewing with the Jets, though. Drive that price up, too. Let's make sure Robert Kraft has to do some business here to get Vrabes in there, recruit him. Let's not just hand over the reins. But Vrabes probably is thinking the exact same thing. I think the Twitter profile photo change is a big deal, personally. I think the speech that he gave whenever he went into the Ring of Honor, I think that's a big deal. I think everything about Vrabel being available and Jerod Mayo getting fired immediately after a game in which they won and lost the number 1 overall pick, it's like this is happening quick. And if you do recall, after Kraft fires Bill Belichick, which I wonder how that is now.
Yeah, I think that might
after
change
1 year
a little
of,
bit.
oh, is that right? 1 year of, is that right? Potentially? You think that's what Bill Belichick's going to say to the Kraft family? I don't think he would actually say it, but he's certainly, when he lays his head down at night after recruiting some transfer portal guy who's got a cannon of an arm, he thinks to himself, I wonder if the Krafts kind of maybe have a little different opinion of things. I hope they get it right, obviously, for the future celebration. But it's like, with how quick they hired Mayo, this was the prince that was promised. Feels like the Vrabel hiring will probably come pretty quick as well. I don't know how I feel about 1 year getting fired, though, H. Like, if it wasn't for this particular situation with Vrabes being available, and we know this isn't like Jeff Saturday getting hired. No offense, Jeff Saturday. I love Jeff Saturday. I think Jeff Saturday would do a great job at anything he wanted to do, including model. He's a handsome son of a bitch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's a handsome. But Vrabes has been a head coach. He's dealt with ownership. He's dealt with everything. I mean, he has literally done everything you need to do to be a head coach, and he's already experienced the highs and the lows at one place as a head coach. I think he's the perfect guy, H.